My first exposure to you was, man, PWG highlight videos. Man, nothing got me more pumped than when one of those would drop. And I mean, granted, the DVD would drop like 3 months later,
Right.
but I would see the Barbarian Overlords music video over top of it. And
Yeah.
God, I missed those. You had such an important part of that. I mean, gosh, I think you wrestled almost 50 matches in PWG as like a North Carolina boy being brought out to California for all those shows. What's that like? And I mean, it was something special. I feel like nothing truly has replicated it.
Yeah, it was so cool, man. So at the time in North Carolina, guys that were coming up, we had Cedric Alexander, Caleb Conley, Adam Page, myself, Andrew Everett, all coming up in North Carolina at that same time. And we were all fighting to be like the best talents coming out of North Carolina. And some of those guys, Adam and Cedric and Drew started working for Ring of Honor. But Ring of Honor would never really give me the chance. I looked a little too young. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't really have it, to be honest, at that time. I had all the talent, but I just didn't have like whatever the character was, right? So Ring of Honor never really gave me an opportunity. But very fortunate, I worked Cedric Alexander in Charlotte, and Kevin Steen was on the show. And he watched that match, and he told me after the match, he said, I think that you would be very good in PWG. And me, the super fanboy at the time who knows all of that, that was what I wanted. I wanted to be in PWG because that's where the absolute best were. Like, there wasn't a single match on the show that was bad. Every talent was the best of the best. So when he said that to me, I was like, oh, yeah, yes, please. But then I never heard anything from it again. And then like a year had passed, and I get a message from Cedric Alexander, and he's like, hey, man, I need your email. And at the time, no one's asking for my email. So I'm like, okay, here, but I don't know what it's for. And then he's like, this is like a Wednesday. And he's like, oh, I think we're going to be booked for PWG this weekend. And I'm just like,
gosh.
I'm just like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what? Like, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla? Like, I had to make sure it was the right PWG and not not like Piedmont Wrestling Group in North Carolina or something. And then, and sure enough, I get flight info, and he's like, don't say anything about this. This is their mystery show. Like, they don't announce any of the matches.
Phenomenal concept, by the way.
And it's going to be me, Cedric, and Andrew in this triple threat match to start the show. And Cedric and Andrew had already had a little bit of buzz behind them, and like I said, it worked for Ring of Honor, but no one knew who I was at all. And one of the coolest moments was coming out for that first PWG match and getting the "Who are you?" because the PWG crowd was ruthless. If you know what I mean, if you weren't going to be good, they were ruthless. But during that match, there was an earthquake, and no one knew it because the crowd was so hot. And like, that's one of the coolest things that I can remember from that, just being like so taken away by how hot we got the crowd off that first match. And from that moment on, my life completely changed. And like, I remember, that highlight video. Like, I remember going to my frozen yogurt shop that I worked at the time and showing my boss that highlight video and being like, this is what I did. And like, he's seeing like the people like on their feet, like going crazy. And that it was right at that time that I stopped caring about that job.
And I mean, then they I remember that because right after that, they brought you back and you worked the Bucks and Kevin, and then it was Kevin.
Right. They brought us right into the mix. And and then I got Kevin's last match before he went to WWE. And then that's really what solidified me as a PWG talent. And then like, I felt like I was a homegrown PWG guy from 5,000 miles away, right, in North Carolina.